Tennessee-Alabama game where Nick went down. And what is more enjoyable, people, than seeing Nick go apeshit on the sidelines yelling at some kid after he had been on, any number of interviews where he tries to act like a human being and says, well, it's all about the kids. And then he Woody Hayes this guy. I mean, it was insane. I mean, he stopped just short of Bobby Knight, the kid, and strangling him, right there on the sidelines in the middle of a game. All that being said, now, people always made this equation, right, that penalties fall upon the responsibility of coaches. That it's not players that commit penalties, but if you have an inordinate number of penalties, an absurd number of penalties in a game, that it falls on the idea that maybe you're not coaching well. So then how would you ever justify Nick Saban's team getting penalized 17 times in a game against Tennessee? 17 times.
That's crazy.
Nick, what's going on there? Where's the discipline, Nicky boy?
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Of course, I love Alabama now because they bounce back and cover the points. So, thank you, Nick Saban. We love you. You are, without question, the greatest coach that ever walked the face of the earth. With apologies to the great Vince Lombardi, George Allen, any of the guys, Don Shula. Is Belichick going to catch Shula? I never thought this was going to happen. I think he's going to catch Shula. He needs like 3 8-win seasons.
Yep.
It looks like he's well on his way to at least getting one of them, although I think he's like 24 or something like that behind Don Shula, all-time victories. Wow. There was a time years ago when people would ask that question, is anybody ever going to break Don Shula's record? And I thought, no way, that nobody would be in the game long enough. But Belichick, he seems determined. I think even if he is deceased, he will retain through some kind of bizarre arrangement with Bob Kraft, who's inclined to get involved in bizarre arrangements, as evidenced by his visit to the Asian spa. But I would imagine he would be inclined to go ahead and, be in a condoning position of Belichick still coaching the team while deceased so that he could eclipse the Shula record. What would they count that, or does that get an asterisk if you're dead when you pass the record? Finally, there's a reason for an asterisk. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here. And Julian, good morning to you, my friend. We love it that you're always with us right from the beginning here of the show. It's a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday on the Defo Show. I'm Jeff DeForest. That is an exhausted, and moving is exasperating. There's no doubt about it. And there's no way out. I mean, if you look behind me, I'm still trying to hide this box here. My setup is starting to look like your dorm room here. Somehow this thing was there, and I noticed it the other day that it was in the shot, and I thought, well, geez, I have to get rid of this thing. And then the Mustang and I were going to move it yesterday, and I took one move, lifting this box with the Mustang, and I realized there's no way I want to walk this thing up 2 flights of stairs. So, Prince of Procrastination, I naturally said to her, look, I'm going to take a look and see what I can do to cover it up, which I didn't do a very good job, and we'll deal with it tomorrow. So you have that ugly box there. I don't know if that's a distraction.
No, it's fine. I didn't even know it was there.
It's kind of like it shouldn't be there, right? It's like, get out of here. Let me block it.
Look where the fuck I am.
You have everything covered up there. I mean, it's like you're operating out of a haunted house or some kind of mortuary. That's great. All right. So how is your moving episode? Because you have no friends when you're moving. They all suddenly have something else to do. And I can't really blame them.
I was lucky. We probably should have gone movers. The problem for us is we're doing like a weirdo move where we close 4 days apart, so we don't have anywhere to put the stuff. So I got a storage, and then obviously after both of our parents were like, "Oh, you got to put it in our garages." Thank you. So we got a storage. And then we're doing work on the new house, so we're not moving directly right in.
Yeah.
So it's like half a.
So where you're going to be living in the interim there? I mean, you sold your place.
The in-laws have 2 extra rooms, so we're going to be there.
Okay.
Hopefully, only a couple weeks. Cross your face.
I don't think I can handle that. Not at my age. I mean, maybe you can. At 40, I never could have handled it. I mean, and they couldn't have handled me. That's for sure. I was a little bit crazy. If I seem a little out of sorts, well, go ahead, Libby. What were you going to say?
I have a great relationship with them, so I don't mind it. It's just I don't like taking it. We have a good relationship, and I don't want them to be like, okay, these people are never leaving. I don't want to get there. So
I wouldn't want to let them know what I was really all about. It was nice on the periphery. He seems like a decent guy. I don't think he's really treating her right. There were always suspicions about whether or not I was giving whoever I was married to the right count from the parents, and or any girlfriend that I've ever had in my lifetime. Always suspicions that this guy goes to the track a lot, that kind of thing. Does he have a job?
Does he have a
Which is a good question. I don't think you could consider this a job, really, although we do wake up and do it every day. So, in that context, it certainly qualifies as one. All right, many things to get to here. Never mind our social life. I did have a great weekend myself.
Good.
Started out, it was nice and quiet, but I spent a lot of peaceful time at the beach, Lubie, if you can believe
Nice.
it, as much as I could squeeze in, because I finally realized after a year of living here that I could walk to the beach
That's
in
sick.
5 minutes.
Nice.
Right across the street, right? Ocean, beautiful. I mean, it was gorgeous weather the last couple of days. I had a nice time yesterday. I don't like to let this secret out of the bag, but it doesn't seem like it makes any difference because, as I've said many times, and I'm not sure, is this true of other areas? If something really cool, like something unbelievable is happening, do people in New York catch on before, you just get it started and all of a sudden it's packed all the time or, too many people are going there. So, you do the old Yogi Berra thing. Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Does this happen in LA or is it unique to South Florida? That, like, really great stuff goes completely unnoticed. And no matter how many times you allude to it or mention it, even in big public forums like Facebook or, here on the show, South Florida Live, wherever, it doesn't matter. People really, they just don't get it. They don't react. So, saw some great music yesterday. Heard some great music yesterday. I mean, anytime you get a chance to walk into kind of a dive bar situation and catch a guy of international acclaim playing the guitar like Matt Schofield, I'm there. I don't care. You know what? And I don't mind. I'll spend a little money in a place. I don't mind like blowing a stick on drinks. Hey, everybody, here you go. Here's a round on the house. Because it was well worth it. You'd pay $100 a ticket to see this guy in some place like the Parker Playhouse and sit in the nosebleed section. And here you are. You're like 2 feet away from the guy. You can watch every move that he makes. So that was great. Tipperary Pub yesterday. Matt Schofield, Terry Hank, and the West Side Blues Band. I want to thank John Yurt for putting that together because they had it on a Sunday afternoon, and it couldn't have been any better. So that was a nice way to go. And then I got in. I figured, wow, well, what a beautiful day. The Dolphins, which I feel semi-obligated to watch all Dolphin games for the majority of the games, or at least be caught up on what the hell is going on. I'm probably not as dedicated to it as I used to be, but I love the fact that they were playing on Sunday night because it was going to be a gorgeous day. I didn't really have any tremendous, overwhelming interest in a lot of the early games. I did want to see a little bit of the Chiefs and the 49ers. I thought that was kind of an interesting matchup, although I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo fan. And I felt like, well, geez, you know what? If the Niners are going to have Garoppolo, then they're not going to be that great. They just, it's impossible, even though he's led them to title games and Super Bowls. He just, he's not all that. And I think he's a little slow to react, and I don't think he has the big arm that he might have had when he was with the Patriots. And Bill Belichick was so infatuated with him that he pissed off Giselle. Right? Which may not be that hard to do. I mean, Brady's done it. And wow, I mean, how regrettable is it that Tom Brady came back to do what he's doing with the Buccaneers, which so far is just complete dreck, although they're in a dreck division. So at 4-3, that they're still sitting there at the top of the division in a dead heat. But I don't know if they hold any advantages at this point in the season.
3-4. So
Yeah,
their division.
Are they 3-4 or 4-3?
3-4. I think they're still
3-4.
among the league the division leaders because their division.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, they're tied with Atlanta at 3-4.
Yes,
Atlanta should hold the edge there because they're 6-1 against the spread. They finally lost the game.
The tiebreaker,
and that would be the new definition of the perfect season. If you can go 17-0 against the point spread, then that is even more colossal than anything Manny Fernandez and Zonk and the boys did, which they were honored at the Dolphin game last night. So anyway, a schedule set up perfectly because I naturally wanted to watch a little bit of the baseball. I wasn't as infatuated with the series between the Phillies and the Padres. It did look like the Phillies were going to prevail. And yes, right at the top of my list today, Lubie, of things to discuss here on the show, it is now clear. I wrote it down right here. It is now clear that the stone crab is far more overrated than Bryce Harper. And that's a reversal of form. That wasn't true a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, you could get stone crabs not necessarily at a reasonable price, but reasonable enough that at $325 million, Bryce Harper certainly wasn't worth anywhere near what the stone crab was in terms of stone crab being a delicacy and Harper being a premier baseball player. But the series this guy is having and the postseason that he's having so far, phenomenal. He had a real good regular season, although he was injured for like 6-8 weeks in the second half of the season. He did come back. He DH'd a little bit. Philadelphia managed to, because of the Marlins and the success that they had, I guess, against the Milwaukee Brewers. The Marlins late in the season, I think, took a series off the Brewers, and that catapulted the Phillies into a more advantageous position. And so they ended up making the playoffs, and now they're on fire. They're red hot. They're unstoppable, and Bryce Harper is the catalyst behind almost all of it. Schwarber is also hot. All of a sudden, this is an all or nothing, the epitome. I mean, he should be actually the logo for Major League Baseball, Kyle Schwarber. Hits .212 with 40 homers and leads the league. Strikes out 200 times. So, I mean, literally, the absolute essence of the whole all or nothing hitting approach is all wrapped up into Kyle Schwarber. I mean, do you ever see Schwarber on base? I guess he walks once in a while.
Yeah.
That's about it. But, I mean, the odds that this guy, I think all of his hits were home runs, all 40 of them. To hit 212, what do you need? I get, 500-600 at bats. Obviously, that's a bit of an exaggeration. But nonetheless, the Phillies managed to knock off the Padres, who, were a team that you weren't sure really belonged in that situation, although they do have any number of stars. They didn't really deliver to the level that you would have expected. A well-played series by the Philadelphia Phillies. They're scoring a lot of runs, and so they may be dangerous for the Houston Astros, who absolutely annihilated the New York Yankees in a 4-game sweep. That's not a fair statement. 2 of the games were 1-run games, and one was a 2-run differential. The game on Saturday, 5-zip. The Yankees were seemingly never in it, although you're always in there with chances, and that's why the postseason is, for Mike Mayo, laced with so much drama, because, the situations that arise. I mean, you had a couple of spots where, even in last night's game, where one hit one way or the other, and it goes the other way. And I'm a believer. I know it's only happened once where the Boston Red Sox, well documented now, in 2004 came back and beat the Yankees after being down 3-0. And I want to say that's the only time that a 3-0 deficit has been erased in a Major League Baseball series.
Yes.
Is it the finals or or
period? No, I mean,
I'm going to say period. Only one time, right?
Yeah,
pretty amazing. But I figure it this way, right? I mean, you win one, you're down 3-1. All of a sudden, you would have had another game there at Yankee Stadium tonight. You win that one. Now it's 3-2. Heat all of a sudden is, going in the other direction. Are the Astros likely to go on at 3-2 up with 2 games at home to win the series? Yes, but is it necessarily a given? One never knows. But we'll never get to that point because the Yankees lost it last night. Again, shoddy fielding. And, I don't know that they were guilty of, not having enough timely hitting, but they had some spots there where they could have put some more runs on the board, just couldn't do it. Aaron Boone, again, the source of much derision from Yankee fans. They're all screaming that this guy needs to go and has to be fired. I'm not sure what exactly he could have done in the game last night, and we don't know what happened to Cortez. I know he left the game supposedly injured, but he didn't look like himself in this ball game. He wasn't getting the ball over 90 miles an hour. He was all over the place. He's usually a pretty good control pitcher, or has been throughout the year. It was a breakthrough season for the kid from Hialeah. Real good story, and seems like a great guy. When he was mic'd up at the All-Star game, it really brought you a feeling of the spirit of that game and what it means to be a pro baseball player and how grateful some of these guys are that they made it. Very humble guy, the humble kid from Hialeah, Nestor Cortez. He didn't have it yesterday. I don't know that he looked as bad as that kid that pitched what was that? The final game for Cleveland that came in there and he couldn't get anybody out. He got Judge out, and that was it. But he didn't have it. You could see he was all over the place. A lot of 3-ball counts, and he left the game in the 3rd inning. Nestor Cortez, and so now you're into a Yankee bullpen that has been suspect. And, of course, the management of that bullpen by Aaron Boone is under constant scrutiny, usually highly negative by all Yankee fans. They think he has no idea what he's doing in that capacity. And that may well be true. But nonetheless, Houston's just a better team. They are. I mean, I don't think that you could really argue that. Even Yankee fans were willing to concede that, no? Houston, a better team than the New York Yankees. All right, people are screaming for us to get into the football thing.
By people, you mean Andy and Mayo.
Yeah.
Degenerates. I'm sure the
Well, I have to say, I was surprised by this. I mean, at the time that it happened, I thought it was kind of a bozo move. I mean, you're screaming. What is this guy doing? What was it, like a 4th and 3?
It was 4th and 2. Now,
And,
okay, so you guys have to catch me up because I knew what was going on in the Dolphins game, but I didn't know play to play until the 4th quarter when they did everything they could to lose the game and find a way to win. This 4th and 2, where was it? Like, were they close? Because Sanders has sucked lately. For Mayo, who doesn't watch,
but he hasn't missed from inside of 50.
40 and
All of his misses are around of 50.
it
Outside
was inside
50.
50 because after 50
Yeah.
he sucks, but that's true. If it's
Oh,
40,
very makeable field goal. No, they were in a good position here. I don't know. It was like around a 15-yard line, something like that.
really? Oh, then
Yeah.
Daniels just got
In
great.
pretty good shape. I mean, this was what most people would consider to be almost an automatic, a gimme of a
Yeah.
field goal try. Sure, things can go wrong, but I mean, when you're up 16-10
Yeah, you
and
wanna
you're
go
facing a 4th and I mean, more than a yard,
Okay.
you would think, hey, go up 19-10. That makes perfect sense. Now, it doesn't take a genius to do the math there. Even a touchdown and a 2-point conversion can't beat you. You still have these team by the jugular. At the time, I mean, early in the ball game, the Dolphins marched down the field on their first 3 possessions, touchdown, field goal, and it looks like they're going to run away. In fact, early in the game, Mike Tomlin opted to go for a field goal on a 4th down and short situation, and I thought, wow, Tomlin probably should roll the dice here because Pittsburgh looks like they're really struggling in this game, and I don't know that the field goal is really going to help that much. At the time, I guess it made it 13-3. And you thought, well, that's Tony Sperano type concession. You take the 3 points, but they're really not going to help you. You're still down 10, and you'd been far better off going ahead and seeing if you could persevere and go ahead and get the touchdown. But I thought this was very, very poor timing on the decision there by Mike McDaniel. I don't even know if it's justifiable from the thing and the standpoint that, oh, well, geez, you always scream that coaches are too conservative. In this case, that was not conservative. That was an essential. And later on, of course, since that turned out to be the final margin was 16-10, Pittsburgh later getting a touchdown. But why would you want to leave them in a situation where, as it turned out, they had 2 shots inside the final 5 minutes to go and score the winning touchdown? And it came very close to doing it. I mean, they drove the ball the first time, and then Pickett, P-I-C-K, got picked off. and then they're going in for a score, and the game-winning score. And again, Pickett throws an interception to. Does anybody know how to pronounce this guy's name? Iguodala or whatever the hell the guy's name is.
Igbenogany.
Igbenogany.
I know only because he's so bad that I now know how to say his stupid.
He wasn't bad last night. He
He's
was
been better
a big
the last
factor.
2 weeks. The last 2 weeks he's been better. I have to give him that. They've needed him desperately, and he's been better.
See, I don't like to cry after a team wins in the NFL because when we see, no, really, I mean, the differential is so marginal between teams in the National Football League that it really is true. If there was ever a cliche that I really didn't care for the longest period of time, but I now find it to be true, it is that any win is difficult to come by in the NFL, and as long as you win, that's really what matters. So the fans that are screaming today, oh my God, can you believe this? Well, they won the ball game, the Miami Dolphins. They desperately needed to win this game and right the ship from 3 straight losses. Tua came back, and for the first half of the game, he looked terrific. After that, the offense really sputtered. They got to the point where, you were wondering if they're ever going to get another first down in the game. They did everything they could. This was the proverbial hors d'oeuvres on a platter there, the little knishes, where, as soon as they come out of the kitchen, you grab a bunch. I mean, They had every opportunity, the Pittsburgh Steelers to come back and win that game, and the Dolphins left them in there. I mean, they were just serving up appetizers the entire time. From about the midway point of the second quarter on. I guess Pittsburgh kind of dominated the second quarter, but you would have to say Bozoic. I mean, to go for that on a 4th down, and then. McDaniel naturally, he kind of justified it later, saying, well, if you make that play, you're a genius. But it was a lousy play call, too. I mean, it was a very prohibitive chance of making that 4th down on the play that they called. And 19-10 would have been a big differential. And it would have made a big difference for those who, in my case, were getting 7 points with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The game's never over when you're playing a point spread. Because there's always the dastardly possibility of a pick six going against you, and then you're constantly you talk about all degenerates would be geniuses at clock management because you're thinking, oh geez, the Dolphins are up 6 now. Pittsburgh has the ball. If they run a bunch of time off the clock, then the Dolphins won't need to press for a score. They didn't, the Miami Dolphins, and they actually ended up punting the ball from like their own from the Pittsburgh 45-yard line.
Yes. Which
was a spread-beating situation. Some again, conservative play calling when one first down would have iced the ball game, and instead they ran the ball 3 times. Pittsburgh used their timeouts. It put them in a compromising position, but nonetheless, Pittsburgh had every opportunity to take that game from the Miami Dolphins. Almost all of it predicated on not going for that field goal.
Yeah, honestly, if he makes a field goal, as a Dolphin fan, I'm not as nervous there. As a gambler, you are, but as a Dolphin fan, I'm not. Like, I was like, oh, I wish they were up by 9 right now. And then I found out, oh, yeah, well, he just kicked that field goal. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it wasn't like it was a 4th and inches. I mean, where you're going to run a quarterback sneak, and what are the odds? I mean, one in 15 that it gets stuffed and you don't get the half a yard. I mean, they had to actually run a legitimate play, which, was going to leave them open to all kinds of possibilities of negativity, including not making it, which, I mean, that was a disaster of a decision. I'm sorry, Mike McDaniel. You can talk about it all you want. Everybody was screaming, hey, what is this guy doing? And he didn't go for it, and it nearly cost him the game. And think about how large that victory was versus suffering a defeat last second to Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I don't know. Is there a win over Tampa Bay a little less, illustrious because of the fact that Tampa Bay got hammered again this week? I mean, they scored 3 points, I think, in their ball game. What was the final on the Tampa Bay game here?
21-3.
21-3.
Yes.
Imagine that. Carolina, a team that just traded away all of their players.
Yes. Yes.
That's thrown in the towel on the season, that just fired their coach. And Carolina beats Tampa Bay 21-3. Yeah. And, wow, I mean, see, this is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if Tom Brady worries about this kind of stuff. I mean, he dumped Bridget Moynihan, or Monahan, whatever her name is, a gorgeous babe that we had a child with. Seems to be very much in love with. And, nice to hear that they're still friends and they're co-parenting in a peaceful and, very, amicable way. But, I mean, imagine you don't want the girl to end up with the upper hand in a situation like this, do you? From a mental standpoint, where like she shows up at some place that you frequent a lot, and you're there with a first-time starter, and the date's not going well, and she's there with some billionaire, and they're arm in arm, and they're making out, and it looks like a scene from American Gigolo. You don't want that, right? But Giselle has to be thinking, you asshole, Tom. I told you this team was going to be no good.
Exactly.
You got Arians fired. You got Todd Bowles in there, who was meh as a coach before. When he coached the New York Jets, he was nothing special, but you excused that away because it's the Jets, correct?
Well, unless Robert Saleh, because the Jets look very different right now.
I don't know that beating Denver is any great distinction.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's just
they're 5-0 on the road, though. The Jets, I think.
Like, I'd take it.
Either 4-0 or I guess they're 4-0 on the road. The Jets this year, and beat the Broncos yesterday, 16-9, 5-2, ahead of the Dolphins in the standings, and that's a remarkable turnaround for a team that you figured was going to be entrenched at the bottom of the standings. There, the Patriots have a chance to go to 4-3 tonight as they take on the Chicago Bears. They're laying a bunch of points. I think I'm stuck with them also. Are the Bears the kind of team that's just troubling and makes it close? I don't know that the New England Patriots are blowing anybody out, and they have to decide whether they want to put that Frank Zappa guy in there or Mac Jones eventually. That's going to be an interesting question for them to answer. So, I mean, so many things happen, too. I mean, that was one thing, but I think everybody's in 1,000% agreement, and this isn't post-race handicapping. Hey, I told you the 3 was going to run. This isn't any of that. This is strictly like when it happened at the time, you were like, what? Yeah. The guy's going for this?
Overthinking.
Me, a huge advocate of going for it, but and I'm not a big fan of opting for field goals in situations where, geez, put some pressure on the defense, run a play. See if they stop you from making like 1 or 2 yards in some situations, you say to yourself, you know what? Then we deserve to lose a ball game if we can't make a 2-yard play. A whole nother general philosophy. But wow, when you have a chance to extend a lead, it wasn't even like it was a 7-point lead. Right? We're talking about a 6-point lead where a touchdown eclipses you and you lose the ball game possibly.
Yep.
And it came very close to being victimized by that circumstance because of Mike McDaniel's, what you call it, daring or stupidity? Which is it?
I think both. I mean, it was a little bit of both. I understand wanting, but that's the thing. You're still only up 2 scores. Like, to me, you do it if it's a differential where, okay, a field goal, you're up 1 score, touchdown, 2 scores. But a field goal to touchdown, you're up 2 scores. And the Pittsburgh offense has struggled, and your defense has actually played pretty decent. Like, get yourself to 2 scores. Again, and if it's 4th and a half a yard, 4th and 2, and it probably was 4th and a long 2, you're just overthinking it. Like, so these coaches, we talk about that all the time. These coaches do stuff like that, and it's like, why? Like, what do you?
An inordinate number of people are going for it now. Now, does this go back to that piece about the high school guy that went for it on every 4th down and always did it? What's next? Everybody's going to onside kick on every kickoff?
I don't know.
They're all going to copy this cat because, I mean, but that was with a high school team. I don't know. Didn't he become like a college coach? And I'm not sure that he became a head coach anywhere, but that guy that started this whole
I know
thing.
he never punted. He never punted ever. It was worth it.
It was advanced analytics that he was using.
Went for it on 4th down.
Yeah, it didn't matter if it was like 4th and 12. He always went for it. This was just stupid on the part of Mike McDaniel. You don't have to be a genius to be able to do the math. Even a guy that might be inept at mathematics can figure. If it was a 7-point lead, okay, then the touchdown maybe gets you in a tie situation. But to go from 6 to 9 was a huge elevation in your control of the dynamics of the game. And you would have to think that was just it looked like a blatant error at the time. And I think everybody that was on that side of the bandwagon was on the right side of it because it nearly cost the Dolphins a critical game. And Mike Mayo can appreciate this because he's all in on the over 8 and a hook. How big would that have been, huh?
Oh,
where the thinnest of margins determines these ball games. I mean, you don't think the Ravens would like to have a few of their plays back in the second half? They finally got off to Schneid yesterday and won a ball game, the Baltimore Ravens. But their collapses in the second half have been colossal.
Amen.
And, have really compromised their season. I don't know that you leave it to that. I wouldn't have been screaming. And I thought when they left the offense on the field, they were just going to do, the old trying to get a guy to jump off sides. And then, after that bluff didn't work, maybe call a timeout and, send the kicker out there to go ahead and put them up 9. But it didn't happen that way. Kane's a disgrace, by the way, over the weekend. I didn't see that game. 8 turnovers. Lose to Duke. You've lost to Middle Tennessee State and now Duke, the Dukies.
Look, I have no room to talk as Norvell has had these struggles coming into his tenure. But the problem is Norvell didn't get paid a lot. Norvell was sort of brought in with the understanding it's going to take this guy time to get it done. Cristobal was brought in with Saban. He was brought in with $80 million. And then they paid his staff. He's one of the highest paid staffs. Like, when you do that, you don't get away with it. It's going to take time. The thing Segredo wants us to believe, well, you can't get it. You can't pay a guy top 5 money to want to take time. It just doesn't work.
Not with the transfer portal also. And the ability to bring players with you. And then you're watching Oregon, who got stuffed in their first game of the season and has been a juggernaut ever since, including a big win over UCLA, knocking them from the ranks of the unbeaten. And so whoever took over there from Mario Cristobal is obviously
Georgia defensive coordinator. He's
having a field day with the Oregon Ducks. And Cristobal comes here and is doing worse than Manny Diaz did with Manny Diaz's supposed players.
Yes, he's totally ruined Van Dyke. I never thought Van Dyke was as good as they wanted him to be, but he's better than this. Like, the guy was an NFL caliber prospect. Now he should be a bench player. Like, he looks like ass.
He couldn't even qualify for that rubber Heisman that OJ tried to buy back from those memorabilia dealers when he ended up getting sentenced to 9 years after he got away with a double murder. An atrocious, just absolutely heinous and grotesque double murder. Not that any double murder is good, but this one was particularly gruesome.
Yes.
How'd he get away with that, man? The bloody glove? What the hell was that? Because Mark Furman was a racist?
Yes. It was a perfect storm of racial tensions in a big city that they got the perfect jury and stupid lawyers.
That documentary, who was the guy? It was like an ESPN guy. Made a documentary. That was brilliant, yeah.
Great.
That whole thing on the OJ case and what it meant and its context in society and what was going on at the time. just absolutely phenomenal. But wow, I mean, it really is staggering to think what's happening with this Hurricane football program because
See, that's my problem. Is I'm fine with people. It's not. Look, it's year one. It's going to take fine. But to lose the way they're losing, like even Norvell didn't get.
they don't look well coached. I mean, they just don't.
They're getting on both sides of the ball. There's no glimmer. The defense looks like
Yeah.
shit. The offense looks horrendous. Like you can't get pummeled by Middle Tennessee State went on to lose like the next 4 games. Like you can't get pummeled.
Yes.
Duke's better, but Duke shouldn't pummel you. Like Duke dominated them in that fourth quarter. Like it shouldn't at home. It shouldn't look like. And there's no fans. Like it's interesting that he's recruiting so far as well as he is. Because what are you selling? Like there's no fans. It's worse than it's ever been for UM. Like Manny at least got 20,000. Like you can't tell me there was 5,000 in that fucking place Saturday. Like that was a disaster.
Imagine that. Yeah. Holy Joe Zagacki, man. I don't know. I mean, look, I agree with Billy Corbin when he said this. It was kind of like he didn't really want to buy it. Billy Corbin, the filmmaker, said I would have to say a dozen years ago.
Yes,
and I think this was already starting to set in as being truth. That it's just never going to be like it was here. I don't think you ever get that back. That trying to get that feeling again, it's not happening. It was a remarkable run. And sometimes it's once in a lifetime. And I don't think the University of Miami is ever going to be in a position, certainly not in my lifetime, which is short enough, but what I have left. But even in yours, Lubie, I don't think they'll ever be in that kind of position of prominence and or / dominance ever again. And there's no evidence that they've tried a zillion things, right? They tried the hometown guy. They tried to retain Larry Coker, because he was popular with the players. And that was the beginning of the end. They brought in the Golden Boy himself, Al Golden. Randy Shannon was going to be able to recruit here because he was a hard-nosed guy and he had the contacts with the high school coaches, and he was going to reestablish the state of Miami. And all we were in is a state of shock, 1 week after another. With that's what they should be pushing, the state of shock, as the Hurricanes get decimated by Duke in an 8-turnover disaster. And now Mike Elko and Rick Stockstill. You imagine, Butch Davis or Dennis Erickson, Jimmy, losing to guys like Mike Elko and Rick Stockstill in the same season. Not happening. So that was a disaster. A lot of interesting stuff. My Orange, Syracuse Orange, got crushed there in the fourth quarter by Clemson. Wow, battle of orange teams.
Close. They were so freaking close, and then their offense went to the freaking.
It wasn't just because it was Syracuse. I root against Clemson in every ball game, much like I do. Let me see. Let me give you the teams I root against in every game, whether it's point spread consideration or not, but I want them to lose. Alabama.
Yes.
Notre Dame.
Yes.
Ohio State. Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Penn State. And Clemson.
Yeah.
All teams. I don't have any negativity about Georgia, although I don't really care for them that much either because they were boring forever. Even when they were good under Mark Richt, they were boring.
So
but they haven't developed a reason to totally despise them, except for the fact that they're hillbillies. Other than that,
I don't despise hillbillies.
They're fine. Did we explain that thing that McDaniel screwed up?
You did.
He's getting very strange, by the way, Mike McDaniel. I know he was bizarre to begin with, but it's starting to morph into a real strangeness, is it not?
He's just always
when
been
you watch
strange.
those post-game press conferences, and he is. He's morphing into. You should go back and watch some of those old Truman Capote interviews when he was on, like.
I've seen him. There was two different movies.
Tom Snyder or David Susskind or any of those talk shows that were around at the time. Who is the other guy on PBS now? I don't know why his name escapes me. Charlie Rose.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, you could see. You could see Truman Capote on the Charlie Rose show there, and long interview and kind of a silhouetted lighting. Is one of those real one-on-one type of situations they created there, and you probably could just morph his commentary right into a Mike McDaniel post-game speech or post-game press conference, and I think the two would sound very similar. They really would.
He does a quiet
and their
thing.
delivery.
Pauses weird.
It's really weird. Yeah, really weird.
Yeah.
All right, Brett Tessler, the Agent of the Stars. His guy was running hard last night. Raheem Mostert.
Thank goodness for Mostert. Yep.
Wow. He looks like an asset. See, you're looking at the Dolphins and you're thinking Tyreek Hill, animal. Jalen Waddle, animal. They have so much speed. Mostert, really, is rounding into form
Yep.
that I don't even know that anybody anticipated when he was signed that he was going to end up being this tough.
Oh, no.
He dropped I don't know if you could say he dropped a touchdown pass. He gets smacked there by Fitzpatrick as he was coming across the middle of the field. And it was interesting how they're using him in the passing game. But we'll talk to Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars, and go all around the National Football League and zero in a little bit on the Finns in just a few minutes. John Conchemi, Dateline Dolphins, and our pigskin playbook will be tomorrow. John's going to join us tomorrow. He was up late last night with all of this Dolphin stuff and a tough wake-up call there, and he has a zillion other things on his plate. So he's going to be with us with his pigskin playbook tomorrow. So we'll get into some more football with the great John Conchemi. So it's wide open here, and we'll talk to Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars, in a moment. Hialeah Park, a beautiful place. Again, Lubie, I mean, if you follow them on Facebook, become a friend of Hialeah Park on Facebook, and you'll see all of these jackpots being paid out, and it's pretty remarkable because you don't see it at a lot of places. I know Mike Mayo likes to frequent the casino at Dania because it's near his house. And in all likelihood, just like we talk about with pizza places or Chinese restaurants, you're probably going to the one that is in the closest proximity to where you live, right? But if you were going to go out of your way to go to a casino and you want to have a chance, at winning some money and jackpots galore, Hialeah Park is a place to go. And they have a great poker room and a outstanding champion simulcasting room. And just a great vibe. You don't get this vibe in a lot of places. It's just not the same. I mean, you walk in. I hate when a casino seems like a mortuary, and you walk in there and you've got a stack full of sticks freshly taken out of the ATM machine right at the front of the place with a $6 price tag attached to getting your own money. And then on top of it, you're looking around the room and nobody's winning. Nothing's happening. So it's always great to get to Hialeah Park and see people that are having a good time. They're dancing, they're doing the salsa and all kinds of shaking around. Friday and Saturday nights are just a blast there. And any time of the week, always a good opportunity to get out there and take a shot at getting that good vibe and a chance to win some big money at beautiful Hialeah Park. Grounds are still impeccable. Horse racing going to be very much in the spotlight. I think we might have one more week of Keeneland racing, and then it gets into, I'm not sure if there's another week of it, but the Breeders' Cup is right around the corner. So make your plans to be there in the Champion simulcasting room and take in all the action of the Breeders' Cup at the one place that really defines the essence of what thoroughbred racing and simulcasting should be all about, and that is beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, we're coming back with Brett Tessler, the agent of the Stars. I'm Jeff DeForest. He is Mike Lubitz. Later on, Mike Mayo's lunchbox on the road. Unfortunately, I had a little conflict, so I'm not going to be able to make it down there, but I will be on the show, Lubie, if you can accommodate me, from the home digs here. And definitely a big fan of shenanigans. Mike Mayo will be out there. And what do you think? Does he get the roasted chicken wings?
I want blackened
chicken wings? Yeah, grilled chicken wings.
Blackened wings, and then other than that, I mean, I'll leave it up to him. That's one of my choices, at least those. Those were great.
I would try like the mahi sandwich if they have one, or sometimes they have
cool.
The fish sandwiches are dynamite. They're just great. So that'll be coming up at 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. I'm Jeff DeForest. He is Mike Lubitz. Back with Brett Tessler, the agent to the Stars, in a moment. Now that it's 7:40. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. You know, since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapist, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tessler.
All right, welcome back to the show. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. We're certainly doing some of that here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz, South Florida Live, and also many other platforms. Catch segments of the show on Ethan Skolnick's a great setup there at 5 Reasons Sports Network, and we have our Believe podcast and many other things working here. But we always enjoy working with this man. I don't know if it's work. It's kind of a pleasure to welcome to the show the agent to the stars, Mr. Brett Tessler. Been with us a long, long time, and his presence on the programs brought to you by Will and Trust Attorney Estate Planning Law Firm, and that, of course, is run by one Michael D. Wild, who is a mensch of a human being. We welcome Brett to the program. Brett, how are you, my friend?
Slightly sleep deprived, but I'm here and happy to be with you guys.
Well, and we're happy to have you. So let's get right to the meat of the matter. When McDaniel opts to go for a fourth down, I want to say fourth and two, around the 20-yard line, 15-yard line, somewhere in there, and decides to forego and forsake the field goal, which would have put him up 9. Your thought was what? I literally thought that they were just going to do the whole fake thing and try to draw Pittsburgh off sides, and when that didn't work, they were going to kick the field goal and go up 9. But what were you thinking about that? And was that analytics again rearing its ugly head and putting yet another bunion on the game?
It looks like it was analytics. That's what it appeared to be. And Josh, I'm sorry, Mike McDaniel's obviously a very analytical guy. New breed of coach, and it's a new breed of the NFL. And so I myself am a little more conservative by nature. I probably go ahead and take the 3 points there, because the way Pittsburgh's offense was the entire game, you kick the field goal there, essentially you probably ended the game then and there, instead of giving 2 or 3 more drives, 2 or 3 more opportunities. But on the other hand, look, I mean, Mike McDaniel, where'd he go? Yale. Certainly one of the brightest young minds in the entire league. And so at the end of the day, he showed confidence in his offense. He felt like, obviously momentum was probably moving in the Dolphins' direction. And, again, it's important for a young coach on a young up-and-coming team to show confidence in those situations and to give that offense the opportunity to try to create their identity. So it didn't work in that situation. It ended up making the game a little more compelling down the stretch, which I'm sure that's not what he was trying to do. But
compelling, it was frightening. What are you talking about?
It stressed me out for no reason.
But they got the win, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And decisions like this are much more forgotten and forgiven when you end up in the win column.
I don't know that you have to be Albert Einstein, though, to do the math on this. And that's why, and believe me, Brett, and we've talked many, many times, and I'm as much an advocate of going away from the overwhelming conservatism that was almost always shown by NFL coaches in these situations, and even others where they end up punting the ball, and they had like a 4th and a half a yard at the 50-yard line, and you're thinking, just go for it. You have a chance to win the game right here, maybe. But the differential, what was so substantial there, I mean, you're up 6, so now a touchdown beats you. I think if you were up 7, it might have been more justifiable, or up 8. But with a chance to make it a 9-point margin, as you said, with Pittsburgh not showing anything on offense to that point, I actually thought that Tomlin was being conservative early in the game when he kicked that original field goal, and I guess that made it 16-3. And or was it 13-3? But 13-3. And I thought, well, he probably would have been better off rolling the dice there and seeing if he couldn't get a touchdown out of that situation. Talking about Tomlin early in the game when he kicked his first field goal. But go ahead.
The thing about analytics that, kind of get on my nerves a little bit, because look, I mean, I'm all for following statistics and trends and, certain things like that. I'm into mathematics, but when analytics take over sports, like, look, it's the reason why I can't watch baseball anymore.
Yep.
It's just become a sport for the nerds. Like, it's not played on the field anymore. It's strictly being played on a spreadsheet, and I just have no desire to watch it with the shift and all the other nonsense that's taken that sport over. And so the one thing that analytics do not tell you is the momentum of the game. At some point, human common sense and human instinct has to prevail, because what might be appropriate in one game based on how things are going might be the completely wrong move in another game. Now, I'm not saying that Mike McDaniel's decision was the completely wrong move. I'm just saying that, as it relates to what Tomlin does or what McDaniel does, these decisions all have to be taken within the context of the flow of the game, how you're doing, what's working, not what's not working in any given game, what your opponent's doing, what's working for them, what's not working for them. And so I'm sure McDaniel had a good reason for the decision he made, and I think Tomlin probably had a good reason for the decision he made, because, again, if you watch that game, Pittsburgh was not having a very easy time putting points on the board. And, if you're Mike Tomlin, when those opportunities present themselves, you got to take them. A different game where you're cutting through a defense like a hot knife through warm butter, well, then maybe you can have a little more chutzpah on those decisions. But for now, again, the Dolphins won the game, primetime game, and ultimately that's what matters most.
Look, and you don't have to name any names, not at all. And Mostert's starting to become a real force for the Dolphins. Thank goodness for Mostert. But when those situations happen, what are the kinds of things your players will tell you? Because look, I'm actually in the middle on the analytics stuff. There's a reason it's there. It's not just some random numbers. It's stuff that has happened enough times where you're trying to follow it and trying to make sports a science. But as Andy, Defo, we've talked about, sports aren't a science. It's not perfect. Every situation is different. You are dealing with people. Some situations feel like you don't have to overthink them. When something like that happens, do your players come back and bitch to you? I'm just so curious how the players on the field react to something like that, where the coach made both the offense and defense's job harder.
Well, that would depend on the players and depend on the circumstance. So last night, if you're a member of the Dolphins offense, you're glad that your coach is going for it. Obviously, you want to see your unit get a chance. You believe that you can accomplish whatever it is you're being asked to do, whether it's scoring a touchdown, picking up a first down, making a long distance field goal, whatever the case may be. And again, let's not mistake, Lubie, analytics, to the sense of the word, have been around since day one.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Vince Lombardi didn't study statistics and watch film and see certain trends and, know percentages of what worked and what didn't work? Same thing with Casey Stengel, 80 years ago. In any sport, statistics and analytics have always played a part. It's just I don't like when the analytic part completely takes over the human thought process, where it's no longer about common sense. It's no longer about feel. It's no longer about just doing what you should do in any given circumstance. Analytics be damned. And so that's when I have the problem, when the game essentially just starts being run by a computer. Yep. And so, again, last night, they tried what they tried. It didn't work in that specific instance. But, again, a guy like Mike McDaniel, a young coach, a very smart guy, there's a good opportunity hopefully in a Super Bowl for this team, in the coming years, that they may be in that exact situation, and Mike McDaniel might remember what happened last night and might end up making a different decision or the same decision, but it may end up working in their favor big time based off what they tried and what happened last night. So, analytics are great. We all use them as an agent. I mean, what do you think? I only use it when I'm recruiting or figuring out who I'm going to represent, or when I'm negotiating a contract with a team. I mean, that's pretty much almost 99% analytics. So, I mean, analytics are analytics. They're wonderful. You just can't let them rule your life.
Your man was running hard, Raheem Mostert, and very refreshing to see this guy returning to that level. But speaking of getting leveled, I don't know, was your heart in your throat there? Who was it? Fitzpatrick came across the middle and sort of hit him in a blindsided fashion, even though he was facing that direction after it looked like he was going to catch a touchdown pass. Wow, I mean, we're seeing all of this favoritism being given to quarterbacks when it comes to roughing the passer calls, but this is not a game for the faint of heart, man. That was as tough a hit as I've seen in the game, and one of those, real vulnerable positions that, in this case, Mostert was a receiver, could possibly be in. What did you think when that took place? Because, for the guy to just get up and shake that off was really something.
I mean, football is still football. It's always going to be a dangerous sport by nature, no matter how they try to change rules or what they throw flags on or what they try to find guys on after the fact. There's still a lot of very explosive, fast, powerful athletes moving full speed in tight quarters. And so what you saw happen last night can happen. Obviously, in that situation, as a quarterback, you want to put that ball low. You don't want to lead your guys up high into traffic like that to the front of the end zone. You always want to put the ball low. In the back of the end zone, you always want to put the ball high. So, it's just one of those things that can happen. And unfortunately, Raheem ended up getting hit pretty hard last night on that one. But look, the bottom line is this. There's no consistency in the league. I represent another defensive tackle on the Chiefs who ended up getting a rough in the passer call early in yesterday's 49ers game on a play where Garoppolo was rolling right. And this guy is just, running with him. And literally right as Garoppolo is releasing the ball, my guy's tackling him at the waist, and they both go down, at normal force. And what just seems like just the most innocuous of plays ends up getting a flag. And now I'll be interested to see if we end up getting a letter too. And so
wow. The letter would then include a fine. Is that how it works?
No. Oh, is that what
correct?
A fine, really, on a regular hit? Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way today's NFL is.
Oh my God!
With the current commissioner a few years back, just penalizing guys on the field and setting their team back and hurting their team isn't enough anymore. Now, in many cases, plays that seem like just regular garden variety plays from a few years ago are now not only flaggable but finable. So it's just, you just don't know, and it's tough as a player out there when you're making split second decisions. You don't have time to think about these things. You just see something and you have to react. You have to do what you've been taught to do since day one. And so that's what makes the game difficult to play. That's what is now, in my opinion, making the game difficult to watch, because anytime there is any big play now, you're just cringing, waiting for the yellow icon to pop up on your screen. Anytime a quarterback gets breathed on, you're just cringing as somebody watching the game, just holding your breath, just waiting, expecting to see that flag icon pop up on your screen. And so, it just seems like these days there's really no rhyme or reason as to what does or doesn't get called. And so, you watch that play that you mentioned last night where Raheem gets hit. I mean, I've seen that play get called as unnecessary roughness before. I've seen that play get called as hitting a defenseless receiver before. I've seen that play get called for a targeting type penalty before. I've seen that play get called for a launching penalty before. So, I mean, there's 3 or 4 things you see there where, theoretically it could get called. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't. I'm just saying, if you're not going to call that, then there's a lot of other things, during the context of a game and, of course, during the season that should not be called that do get called or should that don't. So, or don't that should, I should say, whichever it is. Both ways, there has to be consistency. And that's the thing that I think most players, coaches, fans, anybody involved in the NFL wants to see. And, it's just clearly not the case in today's NFL.
It certainly didn't seem like Tua was playing with any extra caution either when he was taking off on these running plays and diving forward by lowering his head. Made him very vulnerable and susceptible to possible, crucifying injury. So, that was an interesting aspect of the game as well. Wanted to spread it around the league a little bit. Are we looking at not just one, but two bays of pigs? I mean, Green Bay and Tampa Bay.
Ugh.
Are they not among the most surprising disappointments in the league this year, Brett Tessler?
Incredibly. I mean, you're looking at arguably the two greatest quarterbacks ever in Brady and Rodgers. And, I grew up watching Marino and, I loved Manning as much as anybody in Montana. But, Brady is Brady. Nobody's won like he has. And as far as, just pure talent, I don't think anybody's ever thrown a better ball than Aaron Rodgers. And so to see both of those guys getting closer to the end of their careers and to see the situations that both of them are in terms of what their teams have, or more to the point, don't have, it's very disappointing as somebody who just loves this game and has enjoyed everything those two guys have brought to the game. So definitely just, as somebody who's a fan of the sport, I like to see great players do great things. And I'll tell you, I still see Brady throwing great balls. I mean, there's nothing more you could do than when you heave the ball 60 yards downfield and hit, what's supposed to be one of the best receivers in the league in the hand for a wide open touchdown. And they end up dropping the ball. So early in a game, that's just a complete momentum changer, a very ominous feeling, as is the entire season for the Buccaneers. Things clearly are not going in the right direction there. And I'm not really sure at this point what can change that. And just to go back real quick on what you said about Tua, I respect the Beef. There's only one way to play this game. Tua hasn't gotten to where he has in this sport because he's the biggest guy or has the strongest arm or is the greatest athlete. He's just a smart, tough, gutty player. And if you take that away from him, essentially you might as well not even have him in the game. And there's two kinds of players, guys who are healthy and guys who aren't. And if he's not healthy, he shouldn't be in the game. And if he is healthy, you have to allow him to do the things he needs to do to play the game, to try to win the game for his team. You can't keep the guy in bubble wrap. You would have to assume that after what happened 2 weeks in a row to him earlier in the season, that they were being extra cautious in any decisions they made. And so at this point, when they clear that guy and tell him, hey, it's okay now to get back out there, and he's gone through the entire protocol, you have to believe that he is, in fact, healthy and ready to go, and that it's as safe for him to be out there at that moment than it is for any player that's out there on the field.
All right, final thing, Brett Tessler. As you look at the Dolphins, and we've seen this before, it was kind of a tendency, I guess, last year, and, it's starting to rear its ugly head again, or at least it did in last night's game, where you watch the Dolphins come out, they get the opening kickoff and march it right down the field, a drive that you're looking at and you're saying, my God, I mean, nobody could have drawn up a more picture-perfect approach, to start a ball game. And they scored their first three possessions in the game last night and looked great in the process. I mean, could have easily, I don't know that you could say it, but I mean, they were driving like they would have been up, by an even more substantial margin than the 13-zip. What happens? I mean, how do they get decoded late in the game where, I mean, Pittsburgh, really thwarted them, a zillion 3-and-outs in key spots, and they weren't able to do much after that when it looked like they were going to completely handle the Pittsburgh defense in the early going. So are you seeing anything there or hearing anything from your players that are on the inside about why they believe the Dolphin offense sputters like that after getting off to such great starts sometimes?
Well, first of all, you have to adjust. And when you're playing against a Mike Tomlin coach team, I mean, here's a borderline Hall of Fame type coach, and really one of the better defensive minds of this generation. When you're going against that guy, just because something works the first time, maybe even the first 3 times, doesn't mean it's still going to be working by the fourth quarter. So you have to, as a team, show the ability to be, not completely predictable. You have to be able to change things up, and you have to be able to do all of that with success. And so the teams that win don't just do one thing well or even 2 things well. They're able to do a multitude of things well. And so for the Dolphins to wind up becoming a contender type team, those are the situations where there's still, once a team responds to what you're doing, and they adapt, then you need to readapt, and you need to constantly change your game up to, ultimately keep a defense off balance, or if you're facing an offense, that your defense can keep the opposing offense off balance. And that's what, you have to do in this league, because this isn't high school. These coaches see things very quick. These players see things, when you've got a guy like Mika Fitzpatrick back there, one of the absolute smartest players in the league, you got to be able to change things up. You got to be able to be versatile. And if they take one thing away from you, then you got to be able to beat them with something else. That's what the great teams do. And as the season goes on, I'm sure you'll see the Dolphins continue to improve in certain areas. But, hopefully that answers your question as to why you would go away from something that's just seemingly working easy, because you just can't keep going to the well one too many times, because ultimately it will come back to bite you in this league.
All right. Well, the Dolphins do score the W in what looms as a key stretch to whether or not they're going to have any success this season, as they appear to have a soft schedule coming up for the next 4 games as well, 4 very winnable games, and certainly a win in that spot to go to 4-3. Was critical if they're going to make any kind of a playoff run this season. It's interesting to think of this gentleman in his context here, because he's essentially dealing with the dispersal of the assets of a deceased person, but he is a lifesaver in the sense that Michael D. Wild, and I was thinking about this. I mean, the fact that he handled my mother's will and trust was so essential. And I don't know where we would have been if he wasn't on the scene there, and part of the whole thing, and the planning, and then the execution of her will and trust. Michael D. Wild is simply the best at what he does. And, you never know what's going to happen, man. You could get hit in the head with a coconut today. So, good time to start your estate planning. No question, Brett Tessler.
You mentioned that the Dolphins have an easy schedule coming. You can't take anything for granted in sports, and you can't take anything for granted in life. And so when you have the opportunity to reach out to someone like Michael Wild at southfloridawills.com, the best estate planning attorney down here in South Florida, look, nobody wants to deal with this stuff. I know I put it off for far too long. You assume that it's something that you'll just deal with, when you get older, when you feel like you have more time, when you feel like you have more money. That's the biggest mistake you can make, because, like in sports, anything can happen. Unfortunately, in life, so it goes there as well. And so you never know what the future holds. And if, God forbid, something happens to you, you need to make sure your family's taken care of. Reach out to Michael Wild, southfloridawills.com. You won't believe how quick the process is, how affordable it is, and most importantly, what a weight it takes off your shoulders once it's done. So reach out to Michael Wild, southfloridawills.com.
All right, Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars, thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you again next week, my friend. Have a great one.
Thanks, Tess.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Take care.
Brett Tessler, the agent of the stars. All right, we'll take you up until 9 o'clock, so we have about another hour to go here on the program. We do want to tell you about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, and I know Jim Sarney is hounding us, saying, hey, when are we going to have something official to announce?
I agree with him.
Among those that are currently missing in action, my buddy Tommy Fox, who's making those arrangements. So we'll see if we can pull that off and announce a date. Jimmy's already making appearances with Dave Hyde. I guess did they do that thing already at the book fair? Because the book is out. And not necessarily for public sale, but you can find ways of getting your hands on a copy already in a pre-sale, and that's called Swagger with Jimmy Johnson. And we can't wait to get down there and talk to both Dave, and we're going to get Mike Mayo on the scene, the gambling gourmet, to sample out Italian fisherman pizza, which I think he's going to consume with a very favorable disposition on. I really do, because I don't think he's had anything like it. As advanced as his culinary experiences are, being the food critic there for the Sun Sentinel for many years, and now with this Let's Eat South Florida, 91,000 strong. But we do have to get Mayo to sample that and tackle that Italian fisherman pizza. I don't know. Can he go 2 slices? I think he might be able to go 2. Mayo on that.
Mayo can. I don't know if he'll do more. And for Mayo, that's rare. But
Did he eat a half a pie down there? I mean, half a pizza.
I don't know. They put a
regular
lot
one, maybe, yeah, but I don't know about the Italian fisherman. That thing is loaded up, and we want to get everybody down there and have a good time. But you can go there anytime. And wow, we've been having some beautiful weather. Imagine taking that in Key Largo.
Yes, sir.
At mile marker 104, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Great food and drink, a tremendous atmosphere. The grounds are exquisite. You can see the aerial shots here that we provided for you in the spot that we play for Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. I don't know. It's cliche to say that doesn't really do it justice, but Lubie, you want to be the one that says it or me? It doesn't really do it justice.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
They're beautiful, and it pales in comparison. So you get to see when you're actually there with the sea and the great service and the great food, and then the water's behind you.
Unbelievable. Yeah, no, it's just a gorgeous place. And, as I said, you can't believe how wonderful it is, because you can go to a lot of spots there in the Keys, and they have a lot of great places, but nothing as all-encompassing as Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's the Overseas Highway. I mean, just a short little pop there from Florida City, man. Once you get out of that area there and decide not to have dinner at the Mutineer or whatever that place is, or get some gas station sandwich, you can roll right down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and be treated like you're, dining in the Waldorf Astoria, yet with all the great comforts and the relaxation that you'd normally associate with a day or a night or an evening or whatever, a weekend in the Keys. Mile marker 104, the Overseas Highway. Larry Calvano does a great job there. They have tremendous accommodations. You can check that out at jimmyjohnsonsbigchill.com. Very unique, so look into that if you're interested in a staycation or you're coming in from out of town. Just absolutely fantastic. The accommodations at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, Overseas Highway, mile marker 104, Key Largo. All right, we're coming back with more here. Appeal Yourself Off the Map Monday. Mike Lubie Lubitz. I'm Jeff DeForest. Later on, Mike Mayo from Shenanigans in Dania. And that'll be happening at 12 o'clock right here on South Florida Live. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, very popular show. And we'll be back with more of the Defo Show in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:09.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently, we realized it's not just hurricane season that can hurt us. Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business. And the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. Before you call the insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
Joins us here on the program, along with John Congemi.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, The official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence! In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Be true to your school, Lubie. Be true to your school. What did you get, the bye week this week? Is that why you're not suffering from the usual dose of overwhelming anxiety that you have on Mondays? Florida State, bye week?
Oh, yeah, FSU didn't play. FSU had a
okay.
bye, so that, yes, I didn't have to deal with what Canes fans dealt with this weekend. Yes, we'll see what happens. They play Georgia Tech, so that should be an easy win. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. Canes fans, though, I mean, it's time to throw in the towel on all of this. No, really.
You just got here. I mean, you're worse than me.
No, I look, Mario Cristobal, as I've said, when he was a Canes player, I always enjoyed whatever contact I had with him. I remember, many interviews in the locker room or whatever, practices. I was covering the Canes far more heavily, and I was far more involved with the program than I am now, or would ever, be again. And it's kind of like, people are always like, well, geez, did you see that? Syracuse is 6-0. And I went to school there, but I don't really have any tremendous attachment. Like, I'm not living and dying with every Syracuse football game, because for a long period of time there, it just didn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be one thing if they were one of these teams that was in contention. Not that I'm a bandwagon, fair-weathered fan, but, if they were always prominent, you might have paid more attention to the program and maybe taken some deeper level of pride in the fact that you went to school there, and maybe that influences your fandom and level of it. But I won't say I'm totally indifferent to it. I mean, I like to see that they were doing well, but the fact that they lost to Clemson bothered me more that they lost to Clemson, because I hate Clemson. And it did. I mean, if that was another undefeated team, let's say it was Wake Forest out of the ACC going against Clemson, which they're not undefeated, but let's say that they were in a situation that Syracuse was, I would have been rooting with every, fiber of my emotional being for Clemson to lose, because I'm just tired of Dabo and that whole act of, sanctimonious, religious, whatever the hell that is.
Yep.
That he's spilling out there. That God somehow has a hand in a guy deflecting a pass at the line of scrimmage on a 4th and 2 that ices the ball game for you. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it, Dabo.
Yeah.
He's another one of those guys. I was extremely impressed. I've told this story many times. We used to always get the opposing coach on. It didn't matter what radio station you were at. This was big, where imagine this, Lubie, the sports information director doing their job. And, here with a South Florida presence where everybody wants to come in and recruit. If they get one kid, right, that otherwise was ticketed for Miami or Florida State, one of these schools like Clemson or Alabama, they're thrilled. They feel like it's a tremendous victory. So why wouldn't you want to have? I tell you who was great at this, although I don't know that it really made that much of a difference in the long run, because he left the program to go to the pros and then came back. But Greg Schiano at Rutgers, I mean, he saw the value because he was here. Remember, he was a very successful and highly respected defensive coordinator here. And people thought it was kind of odd that he took the Rutgers job. Remember that, Lubie? And then he had billboards all over the place to go to Rutgers. Who the fuck is down here in South Florida thinking, where I want to go to school? Never mind, any of the schools here in the state where the sun is shining. I'm going where the sun keeps shining through the pouring rain. I mean, it's Rancho Rizzo time. Who's going to Rutgers? What 17-year-old kid from Palatka is, driving on 95 and saying, wow, look at that, Rutgers. I never thought about that.
They're saying
I don't even know where the hell it was. It's in Piscataway, New Jersey, for God's sake. A shithole of a city, I'm sure. I don't know. Have I been to Piscataway? Yeah, of course, because the Meadowlands are there, right? Piscataway, isn't that right in that same area? Anyway, nobody ever thought, if you were in New York, you didn't think about going to Rutgers. It was almost like you were embarrassed to say it. You were thinking, I'll just tell them I'm going to Nassau Community College, because I don't want to admit that I'm going to Rutgers. Unless you were like Mark Bavaro or something. I mean, who was going to Rutgers and saying, "Hey, wow, I can't believe it, I got into Rutgers." Not happening. But he saw the value of what was going on here, and naturally, as a lot of coaches have, and actually did like a marketing push here, spending money to see some of the New Jersey state tax money. But so when you're stopping every 3 feet for a toll, what, another one? On the Garden State Parkway, a lot of that was Greg Schiano trying to recruit, young talent to the Rutgers program, going back, say, 15 years ago. So why wouldn't you, if you were? And I don't know if this goes on. It seemed like a tradition that stopped badly, like a lot of my horses, that I've been betting of late, but just stopped badly. I don't know, when did this change? Where no longer was it the job of a sports information director at a college. Even the local ones here, no, you struggle sometimes. I mean, why haven't we had Mario Cristobal on the show?
We only had Manny on once. We had Manny on once, and I try to get him on every year, and we've never had Mario. And I didn't even try.
And there's not even like a sniff of a return phone call. I mean, maybe we do have to masquerade as Joe Zagacki to try and get this done.
It's
Can
weird.
We tell him Zagacki's on the show. I mean, just use any means possible to get what we want here and hear from Mario.
I know we're getting him on now, but like when they were winning,
it's even worse too. I mean, the fact that a coach would go into hiding that you've known for years or whatever, or had a relationship with. I mean, it's interesting how that works because there'll be a time if this trend continues where the program will be desperate to generate any kind of favorable publicity for the team, and they should be calling you and saying, "Hey, you want to have Mario Cristobal on, man? This thing's falling apart at the seams. We really need a little bit of help here." But there used to always be, kind of an unwritten thing where the team that was coming to town to play the University of Miami would have, and it didn't matter what level of stature, maybe with the possible exception of Nick Saban. But for the most part, almost any coach would come on a show. And when we were doing that high school football show out of Landlubbers, Lubie, many years ago, I mean, you would have prominent head coaches calling us at night to be aired on a signal that couldn't be heard in a parking lot once the sun went down. We may as well have been operating like a ham radio. We would have had more listeners, or the possibility of it. But they thought it was so important. I mean, who was it? Greg Bielema, who came on the show, and you're thinking, why is this coach at Wisconsin calling some high school radio show, or a show about high school football in the middle of the night in South Florida? Because everybody wanted to have a presence here. So that was a good thing. And I remember interviewing Dabo under those circumstances where he had just gotten a job at Clemson. And I thought, wow, this guy is really, really impressive. Like any kid could be convinced to go and play for him. And then he had a tremendous run, and he's had a lot of success. But I don't know. Am I the only one that's soured on Dabo's act?
What do you mean? I despise him. He's the modern day Spurrier. Like, he whines about every year.
Everything, yeah.
Whines about everything, and it's like, dude, you're the one that would bitch about paying the kids, and then you want to pretend like you give a crap about the kids. Like, please, he's a phony. I mean, Dabo sucks. Like, I
seems like one of those frauds for sure.
He's phony. He does it, and he brings the God thing into randomest stuff. It's like, I don't.
Jimbo, Dabo, anybody with a Marx Brothers name.
Jimbo, just look. You actually
Harpo, Chico.
You hit Jim. He won the title, so I give him credit, but you could tell he was starting to hit a decline at FSU, and it's been a total disaster at A&M. I mean, the fact that they lost this weekend, South Carolina's not that good. Like, A&M's, I mean, he just got the extension, and him and Dabo.
No, probably. I mean, maybe that should be the thing. More overrated, the Stone Crab or Jimbo Fisher as a head coach. And salary and price obviously factors into the equation there, because I would have to say that even if Bryce Harper was hitting 220 in the playoffs with no home runs and failed to knock in a single run and was batting 0-0-0 with runners in scoring position, at $70 a pound, the Stone Crab still would be more overrated than Bryce Harper, who held that advantage over the Stone Crab. I guess it's a disadvantage. It's kind of a negative, right?
Yeah.
To be thought of in that context, that you're more overrated than the Stone Crab. But at that time, the Stone Crab, was worthy of, high ranking, and Bryce Harper was not. Whereas now, I don't know. I mean, come on. You're looking at these like mini stone crabs there. They look like the shrimp in the shrimp cocktail at the Circus Circus. and they're 40 fucking bucks a pound. You got to be kidding me, man. I mean, and you're picking shells out of your teeth. Oh man, I got right in the crack there. And then, $12,000 worth of dental work goes flying out the door while you're trying to get this tiny morsel of meat, which is stuck to the bone there. And, that's it. I don't know. Is it really worth it? I don't think so. I mean, you have to dip it in butter or mustard. So, I mean, it's not even like the taste on its own is, enough to satisfy most people. Why do people do that? There are certain things that caviar was always like that to me, Lubie. I don't know. Were you a big caviar guy? I was not. I think we talked about this the other day in the same context, talking about the stone crab and Bryce Harper. But Jimbo would have to be the guy. Harper's out of the equation now. I mean, he's more than justified getting the Phillies to the World Series even once during the 10 years of his $325 million contract. Far exceeds what a lot of other guys, the New York Yankees, are on the field. I mean, think about that. Look at all the ball players that are making giant money that, haven't done squat in terms of getting the Yankees to a World Series, including now Garrett Cole and Giancarlo Stanton and, soon to be maybe Aaron Judge, who anybody seen? Wow, that's unfortunate. Guy has a brilliant season.
He's sucking the
Ends up
playoffs.
getting
He
booed.
sucks, huh?
Wow, he was terrible. Absolutely horrible. Yeah, did nothing. He had a couple of home runs, batted like 118, and what was essentially like an easy out. Almost, imagine that. I mean, Aaron Judge gets to the plate, so intimidating when you're watching him with that open stance and the bat held high, and you're knowing he swatted 62 during the regular season, and you're thinking, this is that guy that you were facing in Little League that you knew was going to be a sucker for a certain pitch, and so even though none of the pitches that you threw the guy were strikes, you knew he was going to swing and miss all three.
That's the problem with Judge. He chases a lot. And that's why this year they were hailing him.
He was more disciplined, though, during the season. He walked a lot.
He was better this year, and I guess, but near the end, when he was getting near the home run thing, he started to press. And even though he got to 62, he didn't do anything after that, and he still had a couple games, and I guess that continued into the playoffs. That sucks.
Boy, this really started a domino effect there of negativity. No, the whole thing about the Yankees. All right, so they get swept by the Houston Astros. I don't know. I mean, was it a disgrace the way that they performed in the series? Look, as we said, they lost 2 one-run games. They lost a 2-run game, and they got blanked one day. As they ran into hot pitching from the Houston Astros and failed, as most people were alluding to change their approach in any way, shape, or form. Yep. But they have George rolling over in his grave today. They have Hank Steinbrenner. Was it Hal or Hank? Which one of those Steinbrenners is running the team? I think it's Hal.
Those are the two names. Hal and Hank are two separate people.
I guess. I don't know. Are they one and the same? They might be.
No, I don't.
But they have both of those guys doing nothing and being under the heading and the general concept of being a total waste of time and a disgrace. They want Aaron Boone out of there. I mean, everybody in the world is in agreement. It seems like all Yankee fans are in agreement that Aaron Boone sucks and has no business managing a Major League Baseball team. There is some sentiment, although I don't know how strong it is. But we've heard it a couple of times that maybe Donnie Baseball would be better equipped to do the job there. Is Don Mattingly essentially a better manager than Aaron Boone? Most Yankee fans would say anybody. Dig up, exhume the body of Casey Stengel. That would be better than having Aaron Boone on the bench.
I just love, look, even the national media, the perspective. So ESPN, I guess Boone was talking, and it said, Yankees have gone 13 years without a World Series appearance. I'm like, that's how you're reading. I mean, like, okay.
but look, I mean, what they bring to the table there. Julian, thank you. Hank passed away. He checked out, and Hal is in charge.
Running the team. How's one owning the team?
They want him run out of New York City. I mean, they like this. Who is this? Letitia, the DA that's suing Trump. They want him out of New York City. They want him gone. He's probably, I mean, as unpopular a figure there as anybody could possibly be in sports right now. Aaron Boone. And then nobody knows. I mean, is Judge coming back to be a Yankee? He's going to be a lifetime guy in pinstripes, or it does sound like, I don't know why, but of all the different things that you hear about players maybe floating the idea that they might want to play somewhere else, as Marino did many years ago, when he essentially didn't say that, but they put the words in his mouth, and then the people despised him for a while. Can you believe this guy? What an ingrate. He doesn't want to finish his career here. I don't even think he was even aware of the question he was answering. I think he was kind of looking around at the time. I remember when that took place. It was outside of St. Thomas University when they used to practice at that dump. And Marino's standing against the wall there, and somebody says, Dan, would you ever consider playing somewhere else? And he kind of looked around for a while and go, yeah, sure. He went potentially. Never saying, hey, you know what? I want out of here. I'm not satisfied. The old man's losing it. Geez, I really don't want to be involved with a team that's going to go 6-10. And, he really says nothing in answer to the question, except that he actually made some sound. And the next thing you know, it's making headlines that, geez, I want absolutely out of here. I want no part of this. But, yeah, they want to run a lot of the Yankee exec. And Cashman, I don't know. How does he get a free pass on everything that's happening? With the ability to buy any player that you want, essentially, and the desire of a lot of players to be in that spotlight and take the cash in New York City, you would have to think that 13 years of no World Series appearances, while the Houston Astros, who were, 3 years in succession, 100-loss team, now have been, to the World Series. Is this 4 out of 6 years they've been to the World Series? I think so.
How many times? Oh,
is it 4 out of 6 in the World Series or 4 out of 6 that they made it to the divisional playoff? Not divisional, but the league championship series.
I can see LCS. I don't know if they've gone to the World Series that many times. I know that
I want to say 4 out of 6, yeah. I mean, and very much, you would think prime to take another one, although Philadelphia is hot at the right time. So this will be, I think, an interesting matchup. It doesn't start until Friday.
Oh, my God.
4 out of 6 in the World Series,
That's
right?
crazy. Really? Ugh. Well, the Yankees just aren't cheating enough. The Yankees need to step up their cheating, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. The cheating thing, I mean, you would have to say that somehow beyond the cheat, it's kind of like the Patriots, right? Did they need to cheat to be that good? Maybe. Did it hurt them any? Probably not. But did it overwhelmingly help them? You would just have to say, I mean, look at this kid Pena that they pick up, right? They lose Correa, one of the premier players in the game. He signs for some bozo reason with Minnesota. I guess the main reason would have been money, but I think he wants out of there after 1 year. And here are the Stros, and they find this guy Pena out of nowhere, and the guy's great. I mean, I would imagine he won the MVP. I didn't see the announcement, but he had to be the championship series MVP. I guess Bregman also. Had a big final round or championship round. But Pena, I mean, had 3 home runs, I think, and was playing dynamite defense also, and was a catalyst in virtually everything good that happened for the Astros in that series. So phenomenal. I mean, that's just a good organization. The Yankees have been searching for a shortstop, since Jeter. And haven't really solved that situation with all of the assets and wherewithal that they possess. They haven't been able to get a guy to play that position, and it came back to haunt them last night as they had this Ralph Kiner guy in there, Kiner Falefa, and he butchers a play at second base, and lo and behold, it turns out to be the margin of difference in the ballgame. Even though he had the center fielder, he had a real good series, but his drop fly ball in the previous game, cost the team 2 runs. And he could have easily been the MVP had the Yankees won it because he was performing at the plate extremely well and appeared to be a very competent outfielder. But did you see that play where, he called off Stanton on one play and Stanton was nowhere near the ball? It was just like, yeah, you got it. And then there was a similar play in right center field, and Judge is coming over. He's just kind of loping over, and I guess he got in the guy's line of sight, and he dropped a pop fly, and it ended up resulting in a couple of runs. So that made a big differential there. But anyway, Yankee fans screaming. Did they have reason? What do you think? Will there be any changes of any significance there? Or does Hal Steinbrenner come out with a vote of confidence for Aaron Boone and say, you know what? And this was the year, I mean, all year long, if you looked at the first half, New York tabloids, including my beloved New York Post, which is now 2 days in a row with no delivery, by the way, Lubie.
Uh-oh.
Very ugly, yeah. At the prices I'm paying. Now, I'm writing it off on my taxes, but nonetheless,
you throw that in
it
there.
pisses me off. It starts my day on a very negative note. But all of these, writers who observe baseball for years, I mean, they have some veteran guys there, especially at the Post, the baseball writers, and virtually everybody around the sport, whether you're watching Major League Baseball Network or whatever source you're getting your baseball information from were saying that this was going to be the most historic series, season in Yankee history.
Well, they started
Most
like it.
historic ever. Yeah.
I don't think they'll happen
27 Yankees.
the last 2
Going to be
months.
erased.
Disaster. Look, the Yankees. It's a weird thing because we see all these organizations just spending money doesn't necessarily win, and for the Yankees, it's actually been the case when they've gone and spent when they've had their worst years. But what else do you do? I've always found Cashman interesting. He either gets too much credit when they're just signing guys, or not enough credit when they put young guys. Look, the last time they were successful before this was when all these guys were young. Aaron Judge and this group of guys, Sanchez were young and they had success, and then they lost to the Astros. Like before this time, whenever they want to spend, the Yankees don't win. I don't know what to do with it. But again, Andy said something that to me is interesting because I'm fans of teams that don't do this. His first 6 years as a manager, Boone's been to the playoffs every year. Like, that's pretty cool. I know that's not a barometer for the Yankees, but I don't know how you can have most teams don't do that. It's baseball. It's really hard to be successful every year. So I know World Series or bust is a really hard barometer to hold a manager to, and then not be firing them every other year, like some Billy Martin shit.
I guess it has to do also with how it comes about. Where do you feel that this guy is a detriment? Is he actually holding a team back? You have to look at that over a long period of time. Also, you can't necessarily judge Mike McDaniel for what seemed to be one very bozoic decision that he made, which backfired, unfortunately for him. So it exacerbates the fact that it was a poor decision to begin with. But would you agree with that? Going for it on fourth down in that spot.
Oh, that was stupid.
There's no guarantee it's going to result in a better total of points than the 3 that you were going to get anyway by bringing your kicker out there. There was no reason to fear that Sanders, who's missed a couple of kicks, but I didn't realize this because it seemed like he had gone south a little bit, and he was only 7 for 10 on the season. But the 3 misses that he had were all outside of 50 yards, which used to be the breaking point. I don't know if it's gone to like 55 now for kickers. Yeah. You're seeing guys making 60-yard field goal attempts, and they have no problem with it. So, maybe that's been extended a little bit just by the natural attrition that we've seen. It used to be, you got a little nervous. You were taking your false teeth out if a guy was attempting a 35-yarder. But
well, this year.
Yeah. But now, literally, you see a guy, well, he's going to try it from 62 here, and you're thinking, this guy has a shot at making it. He really does.
Well, that's the thing is you're actually not wrong. I guess I've recalibrated my thinking because
the 50 was always the barometer for me. Like, okay, that's where the breaking point is.
He's missed, it was 52, 53, something like that. And I, at the moment, was like, oh my God, what a suck-ass kicker. And everyone around him was like, this is not the same Sanders. You're not wrong. Like 53 yards used to be a tough kick.
Yes.
They didn't assume a guy was making 53-yarder.
No, it was dicey when you were, whether you would even send the guy out there for 50 yards plus. But over the last 10, 15 years or so, that dynamic has changed dramatically. But no, it didn't make any sense because you want to put yourself in a commanding position. Always, to control the game on a scoreboard if you can. It's one thing, like I said, too, if it's 4th and an inch and you're thinking that's a wimp move to go for the field goal here. Okay, that I understand. But with the dynamics the way they were, with a 6-point lead, Pittsburgh really hard pressed to put points on the board. They hadn't really shown that they're going to be able to sustain consistent drives. And what do most teams do? Even though it was a night game and it was fairly comfortable in terms of temperature, it's hot out there. By comparison to any place else that they would have been playing. The Pittsburgh Steelers, frozen tundra. It's one step away from being Green Bay at Three Rivers.
At least right
it's
now.
Still Three Rivers? No, it's something else.
It was Hines, and now it's something else, yes.
Yeah.
Three Rivers, good for you.
Three Rivers. I'm looking for Danny Murtaugh to come out of the dugout and pull Maz out of the game, The hell.
Oh, my God.
All right, we're I don't know. I think one good thing, if you wanted to take a dose of positive out of the Dolphins game, was that they did win the game, which is huge in the NFL. They were able to overcome what would seem like a really dumb coaching decision that compromised their chances of winning. Right. And beyond that, very, very lucky to escape with that one. at a time of the season, if you can go back and quote the Zombie song, it's a time of the season where many people are saying over the next, and including last night. So it was a 5-week span there where the Dolphins had 5 games that had all appeared with Tua back in the lineup to be very winnable ball games.
Yep.
And a chance to maybe be, 7-4 or 8-3, 11 games into the season, which, I mean, that's about what you could expect or ask for, would it not? I mean, it gives them a favorable position possibly to make the postseason. And they're going to have to be very good in those last 4 games if that's going to happen. And or for, even more important purposes, they would eclipse the 8 and a hook that we recommended that everybody bet. Yeah.
I was going to say.
I don't want to look stupid on this, Lubie. I don't want to look dumb.
I think they'll be fine. I think they'll get over. It's just infuriating because you get the. And at the end, when they couldn't get I didn't even realize the 4th and 2, but the end when all they needed was 1 first down, and you have it's 3rd and 3, and you have Tyreek Hill and Waddle. You're telling me you can't get 3 yards? It's like that was
their offense went south. I mean, after the first half, it really virtually disappeared. And they were running for big chunks too. Mostert seemed like he was getting 9-10 yards a carry every time he got the football. You would have to say that yes, credit Pittsburgh because they had gaping holes in the middle of the field in the early portion of the ball game, and you were seeing Hill and Waddle just roll into an empty zone in the middle of the field with a very easy, straightforward throw. Without a whole lot of traffic in between, including the defensive front for Tua, and Tua's very good at that. I mean, that's his game, right? Quick pass to the first guy that he sees, first option, and zips the ball in there with real efficiency. And that's what was happening for a long period of time. But then later on, they kind of covered up those gaps in the middle, if you noticed. Pittsburgh, at least, I mean, you could actually tangibly see where an adjustment was made during the course of an NFL game that made a big difference. And the Dolphins suddenly were hard-pressed to do anything offensively. And, wow, I want to say they had an inordinate number of 3-and-outs there or drives that maybe they were only able to achieve 1 first down. And they just weren't able to apply the knockout blow to the Pittsburgh Steelers who were there to be taken. And, as we offered up earlier, I mean, literally like a platter of hors d'oeuvres coming out of the kitchen at a bar mitzvah. They left the game there on the table, not once, but twice at the end of the 4th quarter for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take the game, win it outright, which that would have been a devastating blow. So, I mean, they dodged a bullet there. Maybe I started out on a positive note here, trying to establish a positive, but you notice it all became a negative diatribe.
They're crashing home.
But the fact that they survived this, right? Sometimes you just need to survive. All right? Survive and move on. Like every team in the tournament, in the basketball tournament, NCAA, has one of those games where you're like, what? Yep. Davidson? Who's this Curry kid? Skinny little rail of a human being, and this guy's, causing you to go right to the wire to pull off a win and finally move on in the tournament. But almost every team that's won the championship had one scare from an improbable source. So maybe that was one of those games for the Miami Dolphins where, they made it possible for Pittsburgh to literally steal one, no pun intended. And perhaps that'll be a springboard because they did get Tua back, and there were times in that ball game where they looked like they were going to be a dynamo. And we'll see if they can, come back around and continue to prosper here in what seems to be the softest part of almost any NFL schedule for the Miami Dolphins coming up here the next 4 games. All right, we're coming back with more. It's the Defo Show. Mike Mayo with the Lunchbox Show from Shenanigans Sports Bar. Talk about a great place to watch a game. Although the game tonight is, again, of a minor appeal, I would think, for most people, unless you just hate Bill Belichick and want to see him lose. But the Chicago Bears might be among the most boring teams in all of sport to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Is that fair?
They
are so boring.
It's funny how these franchises that are downtrodden can take even talent to make. Like Justin Fields is an exciting player, man. Like the dude can run. He has a cannon. He actually isn't just a runner. He's good in the pocket. Like I was really excited for him to get to the NFL. He was a guy before the Dolphins got Tua that if they had to, maybe tank for him. Like he had loads of talent, and then he goes to Chicago. He's like 12 for 30, 190 yards,
horrible,
a touchdown, 2 picks. It's like
he may as well.
Fields, like.
He looks like Bubby Brister or
Yes,
Brian
just
Hoyer
imagine.
out there, just subordinary at best.
How do you do that? He's a talent. Like the guy's exciting, and it's like, oh,
So boring to watch the
ouch.
Bears play. I mean,
I forget he's
remember
there.
when they were the darlings? That's a long time ago. I mean, we're going back to 84, 85. But they were the darlings and one of the most exciting, electrifying teams in a team that was very popular all around the country. They had guys that would normally be obscure that were superstars like Fridge Perry and all of these other players that were making big names for themselves. Doing videos, and McMahon was a wild man. But had been boring for a long, long time.
Yep.
Is it the McCaskies? They don't still own the team, do they? The McCaskies? Because that was where the old joke was applicable, that they're so tight with money that when they turn their neck, it squeaks. Throw nickels around like manhole covers. All of that shit applied to the McCaskies. And it was an excuse that we made for Dave Wannstedt when he came here to the Dolphins as a head coach. We were like, well, nobody could win with the McCaskies. I mean, my God, look how cheap they are. And then Wannstedt came here and he won for a couple of years. And then, unfortunately, all of those people, and I owe you all an apology because I was one of the defenders. It was E.G. Marshall on this thing, The Defenders, which was a great show back in the day because you know why this was a great law show, Lubie? Occasionally they lost.
Oh, really?
I mean, you rarely see the home team lose on any kind of legal show, right?
Oh, no.
They would lose like really disappointing cases. E.G. Marshall, I forget who the other guy was, but he became a very prominent actor, a young guy, and I'm blanking on his name here, but I can see the hair. He was a good-looking kid, and lasted a long time as an actor in other roles. But that was a good show. But I was one of the defenders. I was E.G. Marshall of the Dave Wannstedt hiring, although I probably knew in my heart of hearts. Well, in the sense that people would call talk shows. That's when people call talk shows, and you would have like just a line, board full of calls, just going, okay, Manny and Miramar, what do you got? Man, this Wannstedt, he sucks, man. You see what he did with the Bears? And wanting to give Dave, because he was a UM guy and we knew him, a shot at least. Although I have to say, when I was at that press conference when Jimmy announced that he was leaving and that he introduced Dave Wannstedt, who was going to be the new head coach with Wayne. And I remember thinking, Wannstedt, really? He's going to be the head coach here? He just bombed out in Chicago.
Yes, that was
but we tried to justify it a little bit to the fans by saying, hey, look, give the guy a shot. Kind of like this whole Mario Cristobal thing. Give the guy a shot because nobody could win in Chicago. And while that may be true, unfortunately, not everybody can win here. So if you're not that good to begin with, I mean, I don't know that we could blame the McCaskies for what happened with Dave Wannstedt when eventually the Dolphins roster and all of their chances of winning went into serious decline. And then we've had, nothing but bozos since for the most part.
Yes, he was the beginning of the end to me. Like people try to mark the beginning. They do Saban. They do. It's like, no, it was Wannstedt. Like he had a loaded roster. Like that team had a lot of
my God. Yeah. He won like 11 games 2 years in a row, I think.
And Ricky Williams literally was like, yeah, he punished me for weed. I don't give a shit. It's better than running with this fucking guy.
Yeah. Well, what do you have? Like 500 carries that one year? He had more carries than the Marlins leadoff hitter had at bats.
It was like they ruined, and that defense was loaded. Like, yeah, no, Wannstedt. The minute they hired him, like, Wannstedt, what?
Seemed like a very mediocre, unexciting, non-sexy hire.
It was rough.
But
it was depressing. Smith.
That's what it turned out to be. So I apologize to all the fans that we, said, "Hey, what do you know about football? You don't know shit. You're a fan, right? Like we know more. I mean, but while at first, as I said, my initial reaction was, then we came to his defense quite a bit there on the first team when we were doing the shows there with Joe Rose and Steve Goldstein, all saying that the Chicago situation was so prohibitive that nobody could win there, and that may be true, but it didn't make Wannstedt a good coach. That's unfortunate. All right, we're coming back with more in just a moment here. The Defo Show, Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox from Shenanigans. Any idea what you're going to have? I know, yeah. Mayo's, you're going to have those black and grill wings. I'm sure about that.
I have to have black and wings. And yeah, you guys have been there a lot more than me. I'm open to whatever. The fact that it's like a bar, and I guess Landlubbers does this too, but usually you don't think about getting a fish sandwich.
Yeah.
No, that's not a fried one. I think that's cool. Like they have like fresh fish at like a sports bar is really
They're not messing around. Yeah. I mean, it's
Would
as
love
good
to
as
try
any
it.
seafood joint that you could go to.
That's good.
And Patrick Utterman makes it that way. So I'm thinking, yeah, I would dive in on a seafood sandwich of some sort.
Yeah, let's do
Get your own, by the way, because I'm not going to be able to make it down there today.
it. Bravo.
So Mayo doesn't slime the food. I don't think he can help himself. I really don't. I think he does it unconsciously, right? But it is weird, to see like a guy that was a food critic abstain from like the normal silverware and instead of a knife and fork, just eat food with a shovel.
Well, what's weird to me is the esteem that he brings. Like he thinks we're joking.
Yes.
I've never seen, but Frankie literally is like, dude, okay, he's from Detroit, so it's not Buffalo, but Frankie went in some interesting circles, and we saw him around some interesting fellows that everyone else would be like, oh my God, that guy's freaking out. That guy's like, what the? And then Frankie would see the dude, and the guy would be scared of Frankie. Like Frankie was
He had guys hanging at the bar that looked like Luca Brasi. They
100%.
made Luca Brasi look like a circus clown.
Look, I've seen
Yeah.
him around some really weird characters, and I don't care about shady because we have friends of all kind of. It's not a judgment.
Yeah.
It's just that he didn't give a shit. I've never seen him look. He was literally he held his breath
Mayo, man.
for
Yeah.
when Mayo was going to take a bite, and then he like exhaled. So that for Mayo to have, and every place we go, they give us all this friggin' food, and
They're all
like,
waiting for Mayo.
they're like, oh my God, thank you so much for being here. Like Wicked Cheesesteaks, it's like it's an honor. And then he sits and eats, and I'm like, okay, it's such a weird combination. For a guy that carry that much weight, that's an utter slob. Like I just don't get it.
I mean, it's Columbo writing about the restaurant scene. I mean, he stops just short of wearing a raincoat to these appearances. It's incredible.
He literally, and he was doing good at the pizza place Friday.
Yeah.
Then he just grabbed like a piece of meat off of a pizza and
Yeah.
ate it with the owner there, the founder. You're there, I'm there.
Jennifer, yeah, she was lovely.
On air. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with any of this.
I will say this: that red pie, which was kind of a different concept,
Just to the middle.
really, really tasty. Yeah, I took a few of those slices home. That was nice. Different stuff, though. I mean, it's not New York pizza, so if people are looking for that, then they're going to be disappointed. But
did a good
for
job.
the New Haven style, I mean, that was the forerunner to all of this. And yet, I will say, as much as I enjoyed it there, and it was fine.
Yeah, they're rich.
But I like the veggie pie. If I was going to go for that New Haven style at the pizza spot, it is my favorite of them all.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the veggie pie. It's so tasty, and even like days later, fantastic. So, but Mayo will be coming your way from Shenanigans, and I'm sure he'll be chowing down on many things. And I don't know. I mean, there's really nothing to cry about. He switched allegiance where he was going to be Mr. Positive. It didn't take him any time to turn on the Miami Dolphins.
It was because I was busy all day yesterday. My phone's going on crazy. I'm like,
Yeah,
what the fuck is
like a
going
venomous
on?
snake.
And it's
Exactly.
Mayo.
Mayo, man, was going crazy.
I'm like, what are you bitching? Like, aren't they winning? I'm like, what is going on right now? Like,
Being a degenerate too, I mean, it's really different watching a game from a degenerate standpoint. In my personal bookmaking endeavors, where Francesco was making a little bit of a comeback of late, he gave me Pittsburgh last night. Now I'm thinking, all right, the Dolphins, exactly what happened is what the desired result would have been for me, which is the Dolphins win the game, so we're still in a hunt there for a 8-0 hook. And I would like to see them do well because I am still rooting for McDaniel, and I'm a Tua fan. I don't know that he's ever going to be the greatest or anything. Not sure he's going to be a left-handed Joe Montana in the end or a Steve Young, but I'm rooting for him because the kid plays hard. He seems to have his head and heart in the right place, and he went through a lot with this concussion stuff. He does seem to be a little bit fragile in terms of being injury prone. I don't like to label anybody as that, but he's been out a lot. Let's put it that way. So you'd like to see him stick in there and see what the Dolphins could do because they could be very exciting, which is all we've been looking for the last how many years? 20 years. Just if you're going to not win or be a championship team, be exciting, be entertaining.
Yep.
Don't be like, I mean, as you said, the Hurricanes are down to like 4,000 fans in the stands. It's a disgrace. How far, if Tony comes on with the rose-colored glasses this week, I really have to question this man's sanity. How far away is this program? They can have Radakovich or whatever his name is. I don't know. What's the guy's name?
Dan Radakovich. That's his name.
Yeah. Okay. This, big-time AD comes in, and he's going to help turn things around. And, you got Mario, who everybody likes and has a very favorable I mean, you would have to say his image is a favorable one as a head coach and as somebody that you would like to have running your program. Seems like a real decent human being. But wow, I mean, they're light years away. I mean, in terms of interest. They would have to win 2 championships before the fans here woke up.
They wouldn't be tied until after the title.
Is it possible they never win a championship again because of the way college football is, morphing into a very small?
Yeah.
Teams that have a chance to win the title, the numbers are not favorable for the University of Miami to get from where they are right now to a championship run. I'm not sure about that, Mike Lubie Lubitz. What do you think? 0 championships. The next, what do I got? 20 left at tops.
I hope you have a lot of time. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't even consider that. I guess that's true. The fact that I don't even want to talk about them in the topic of titles, I guess, is my answer, because I'm just trying to see if they can get 8 wins. Like, I'm not even.
Whoever thought that it would be a struggle to win the ACC title when they got in the ACC? Everybody's like, wow, the ACC. That's not even a league. I mean, it's like playing Little League baseball here. And batting Aaron Judge leadoff, which Aaron Boone did for much of the season. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment, and we'll wrap things up on this Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Always a lot of fun being with you here on the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz returning in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:52. Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hi, guys. If I could squeeze in 2. One is just, can you say with certainty that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster on Sunday?
I can't guarantee that anybody in the world will be alive Sunday, so I can't guarantee who will be on our roster on Sunday. So that goes for all of us.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo joined by Lubie on The Defo Show.
One of the worst answers ever given at a press conference of any type, including various presidential-related COVID-19 updates. Remember those?
Oh, those are
maybe we could get some Clorox up here. I'll gargle with that. Okay, Donnie boy. Not exactly a scientist. I was only kidding. Oh, my God. All right. Did you see this thing on Marjorie Taylor Greene on the show? You ever watch the Showtime show, The Circus?
No.
I think it's really well done. I mean, the people on the right probably wouldn't believe that because it does seem to be of a liberal frame of mind, at least maybe that's why I like it so much. But they give a person a chance to go ahead and make their case, even if they're on the far right. And they had a thing about this Marjorie Taylor Greene. That is amazing how the country has changed in terms of, the
Like
kind of
Loon.
people that we want representing us. My God.
Yeah, the loon is
Wow.
allowed to be listened. Look, I don't care what side you're on. There used to be this idea that we want our government officials to be people we'll have a beer with. Why would I want? You understand the decisions these people make? Why would I want Joe Schmo to be a government? I never. It started with Bush, I think, Bush 2. Oh, he's the kind of guy. Yeah, he was, and he was a freaking moron. Why would I want someone smart?
But even he at least has redeemed himself as being a somewhat
been a human
respectable human
actor.
being.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, no,
Right. He traded Sammy Sosa, though. That was unfortunate. Although
just
Sosa wasn't on the juice yet.
They've just leaned into, so now they're accepting the crazy person. They're accepting the person who, she literally just says shit without any evidence as a government official. It's like, you can't do that.
The more of a lunatic you are, the better chance you have of getting elected today, which is pretty incredible. All right. You know what's funny? Last night, I'm flipping back and forth between the Dolphin game and the baseball game. Yeah. Curious to see what was going to happen with the Yankees. I enjoy playoff baseball immensely. I'm going to miss it until Friday when the World Series begins. And even though it wouldn't be I'm not a giant Astros fan. I think, that they're likely to win the World Series, but Philadelphia is definitely in there with a puncher's chance, you would have to say, especially because they have guys getting hot. Who's more on fire than Bryce Harper has been in the postseason so far? And, once again, we were dead wrong about this guy, but that's not uncommon on the show. We're not ashamed to admit our mistakes. Yeah. We'll acknowledge our own indiscretions when it comes to the thought process of how to analyze and cover sports. We're not going to deny it. I mean, we were on the wrong side of that thing, at least as far as the way it is going right now. But as I'm flipping back and forth, they both ended up in a commercial, and the commercials are lengthy on Sunday Night Football. It's like, okay, we'll be back in 28 minutes. After Tony Dungy dissects, yet another blown non-reversal of a call that was blatantly missed by the officials. And we come back, and then have various sports stars who claim to eat at Subway, which we know is a bunch of bullshit. All right, but and I figured, okay, isn't there some NBA action? And there was, and it's already been like a monstrous start to the NBA season with a lot of weird things happening, including the 76ers off to an 0-3 start. Yeah. Lakers, are they ever going to win a game? They had chances last night.
The Heat have been. I haven't thrown in towels, but I've totally readjusted my expectations for the Heat based on the first 3 games.
Yeah. 1 and 2. They did win the Raptors game last night, which was obviously
the
important.
Entire game and totally sucked in the fourth quarter and almost gave it up. They haven't been good.
I'm watching. It wasn't the Boston game. Who was the second team that they played that beat them? Was that Boston? I think it was.
They lost to the Celtics their second game.
Oh, okay, Celtics. Yeah, and I mean the Heat defense was non-existent.
Bad.
I mean, zero defense, nothing. Whatever the Celtics wanted, they were letting them just kind of, jog to the basket there and, layups, dunks, whatever. Absolutely not, which is amazing because, Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler, I mean, these are guys that are sticklers for, hey, we have to play on both ends of the court. So I was surprised at that. I didn't see any of the game last night. And when I tuned in to NBA Network, they were about to show they had the Phoenix Suns. And they were playing the Clippers, I believe, on the road, the Phoenix Suns. I don't know how that game ended up, but it started out, it was 11-0 Phoenix. And the Clippers were going south. They were already doing load management, 5 games into the season.
Love that. The Suns won 112-95. Yes, the Clippers have started load management before the season even began. It's impressive.
What the hell is that? How do you rest a guy in the opening night that they're resting Kawhi Leonard? Well, we got load management. We got 81 more to go. It's like, what bullshit? How does Adam Silver stand for this? And this is probably the funniest thing I've ever seen because this French kid, Wambanaya or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not exactly the pronunciation, but 7'5", shoots threes, is not like a frail, fragile Chet Holmgren type where you're thinking the wind might knock this guy down and tear an anterior cruciate.
Yeah.
When he gets on a team bus, he could get injured, tearing Achilles or something because the guy is, as fragile as any fine glass could possibly be, thin porcelain. But Silver has come out and said that they're scrutinizing tanking this year.
They haven't talked about tanking for 3 years because with the expanded playoffs, you actually didn't really have a lot of it. And then this kid, it's funny, and he's been around. People in NBA circles have heard of him, but he had that one game that Ken talked about, and then you and I talked about because that one game was fucking insane. Since then, the idea of him has exploded to where Silver literally came out and was like, "Hold on,
I don't want to see you guys losing." Yeah,
I'm tanking. It was like,
what's he going to do about it? Nothing.
I haven't heard
The
the word
system is flawed. I can't believe how many people have come on the show. That we've talked about this with the NFL and said stop. And it's not an original idea. This came from the great Eddie Kaplan. Stop rewarding futility, and you will solve a lot of the problems of the game in that regard. Make it so there's an incentive for the team that doesn't make the playoffs to be the best that they could possibly be, and maybe then they find themselves in a position, a reverse lottery, if you will. Have the best record of those teams. Now, I mean, you can't totally legislate all of this out of the game, but you can come a lot closer than you can by just saying, okay, if you have the worst record in the game, you have the best chance to get a franchise-changing player, which in basketball is far more monumental, unless it's a quarterback, than it would be in football or, certainly in other sports. Maybe, I don't know. The number one overall pick in hockey sometimes is very, very significant as compared to, say, number two. When you get certain talents out there like Connor McDavid or somebody like that. And by the way, the Panthers, 4-1-1, not too bad. Not too bad so far to start the season. 4-1-1. They win last night. And among, a few surprise teams there so far. I don't know if it's any surprise because their regular season was outstanding last year. But, the playoffs, unfortunately, turned out to be a bitter joke. Mayo was onto it, man. The kid had ESPN on this. He didn't understand how to embrace his own bitterness.
Exactly. That's a problem.
Which is a problem how many of us have. Like, how do you embrace your own bitterness? Tampa Bay, man, a shocker yesterday. That was
I love it. That's what we said.
All right.
Offensive line's a disaster. So I was curious about just how long it would take for Brady to lose it, and that was last week. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I started to say before, like about an hour ago, that if you're a degenerate watching a game and you're getting 7 with Pittsburgh, look how amazingly, insane the end of that ball game was.
You should be happy a fucking field goal.
Well, I mean, at that point, you definitely were, but you're just thinking from an analytical standpoint. I mean, I don't know what analytics could have dictated a stupid move like that. I really don't. Everything, every possible sign would have been pointing towards being up 9.
Yeah.
Period. As opposed to what? So they would have been up 13.
Yeah, it's that big of a difference. It's 2 scores.
Yeah,
2 scores. I mean, I get it was earlier in the game, wasn't it like the third quarter or something? So, or second quarter. So you're hoping you can tack on points, so it means more. But I don't know. It's just a lot of thinking. Like once you get to 4th and 2.
Don't you want to control the dynamic of the scoreboard, though? You want to control the dynamic on the board there. And force a team out of what it might want to otherwise do because they need to, generate not only, 1 touchdown, but then something else on top of that.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed pretty sensible.
Yeah.
Look, I'm all for going for it, but sometimes you don't have to overthink it. These guys overthink it all the time.
It's Brandon Staley, man, all over again.
Yeah.
Just ask him. Check with last year's game. Who was that against? Absolutely choked the game in the Chargers. Wow, you talk that they may be the biggest disappointment so far in the NFL. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow, and later on, I'll be making an appearance here. I'm going to be right here in my home digs. I have to wait for a guy to show up at my house here. Otherwise, I'd be happy to join you guys at Shenanigans with Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Lubie will be down there, and that's in Dania, and it's right there, A1A, right?
Yep.
Just south of the airport. Great spot. And you're going to love it. So hop on by if you get a chance to catch Mike Mayo and Lubie live there from Shenanigans on Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And I'll be along for the ride. Pat Utter, I think, is going to appear on the show, so that should be a lot of fun. Nice. And we will see you tomorrow at 7. John Kajemi will be joining us with a little pigskin playbook. So we'll get more into this whole football scene in the upcoming week as well. Tomorrow on the Defo Show. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.